Thank you very much, Dennis. To the Office of the Prime Minister of Dominica, we want to say thank you very much for the invite. Chief Psychiatrist, Dr. Griffin Benjamin, for reaching out to our team from Trinidad to support this initiative. And we know how critical at this time it is important to deal with our mental health issues and, of course, the trauma that would leave us incapacitated in a lot of ways. We are here, and we have basically hit the ground Monday, well, let's say a week from now, a week ago. And we too had our own challenges to get here. But, you know, one would say our desire and our passion to come and provide that support for our brothers across the Caribbean and in Dominica, there's nothing stopping us. And as soon as we came in the Monday, the very Tuesday we were out there. And first thing, met with Dr. Benjamin and debriefed his team because we recognize that they would have been traumatized by their experiences. When we looked across, I can tell Dominica, I guess, let's put it this way, our interaction with Dominicans, they start telling you about Hurricane David, and they skip Erica now and they say Maria. Erica like it never existed. And I can tell you we were here in 2015 for Erica, and when we came in the island and we looked around, it was nothing like Erica. The devastation was widespread. And my heart reached out to every Dominican, almost every other roof, or if the roof wasn't all gone, it probably just had a few galvanized remaining. And we understand that in terms of how that is measured in terms of trauma. As we hit the shelters, our desire, having discussed a plan with Dr. Benjamin as to how we go forward, after debriefing them, and basically our main focus and theme would have been to restill a sense of hopefulness, to counter that sense of hopelessness and powerlessness being felt. And our drive took us to a total of 9, a combination of shelters and communities, where we would have gone to grammar school, we'd have gone to St. Martin's School, the Goodwill Church Hall, those were shelters in Rousseau, and then Newtown Community, Loubier, Castle Bruce, Point Michel, Bat Estate, Quilibistri, and Collio. We have scheduled meetings for Quilibistri and Collio again this afternoon because of the extent of the damages up there and the amount of people. I mean, we had gone up there in 2015, and when we look at Collio this time, my heart sank. You know, the church roof, it is like almost the whole roof gone. Where we had done the debriefing the last time no longer exists. And it's sad to see the extent of the damage that has been meted out to our brothers. I mean, they didn't ask for it. And my appeal to the listening audience, not only Dominicans here and Dominicans outside, but our Caribbean brothers, is for us to come together. We could never know when this might be us. And let's come together and let's put our hand together. And I know there are people who are doing that, and for those people, hats off to you guys. The difficult piece of work sometimes is the mental reconstruction. Because when Dr. Benjamin spoke earlier about if the fellow should hit me and knock me out, not only would I be traumatized, but then when I get up, I have a perception of myself. I now have a thinking that I am probably weak, I am probably helpless, and I cannot defend myself. And those are the things that we now have to go back and reconstruct in terms of people's cognitive ability to recover themselves. And we are seeing bits of recovery. We are seeing hopefulness around the islands. We're seeing new growth in the trees. We're seeing the birds coming out again. And we're seeing people starting to bustle again. Some of them are still very numb in how they operate. Some of them are, as Dr. Benjamin said, experiencing the honeymoon phase. But altogether, we want people to move away from the numbness. What I have identified is this storm is really, this hurricane is truly the great equalizer, because it would have brought everyone from whatever different levels to a sense of humility, whereby we all have to go to the river and wash. But not everyone would feel comfortable having to do that, because I've lost the way of life that I know. I've lost the ability to wash in a washing machine. There's no power. So there's a lot of adjustment that's happening in and around the island. Even the burial process, the burial ritual has changed, because we don't have power, so there's no refrigeration process, no morgue to put people to wait on a proper burial with a pastor and a priest and all that. So because the composition set in earlier. So all of these things are very traumatic for some people, because people are accustomed to those things. The way we do business is no longer. Based on our outreach, what we have done is, now a CISC is what you call a critical incident debriefing. It's a psychological debriefing that's done, as we said, to reinstill people's cognitive ability to see hopefulness once more and to be able to bring themselves out of the trauma. We have done a total of 18 CISCs across in the communities and shelters we have reached. We have seen a total of 165 individuals, again, within those communities. We have touched over 15 families, and children group, we have dealt with over 11 of those groups. And that's just within the week that we are here. We hope to be here till the end of this week. And I know Dr. Benjamin is when we leave, he has new people coming. But we want to make sure that as much people as he can get, because he himself, he has to manage a process, and he's not necessarily the one to go there and execute the process. So he needs the support to get the work done. Because the more we can help people rebuild their thinking and regain hopefulness, the faster the development of Dominica, the faster people get their hands on deck and start the rebuilding process all together. We have experienced some stuff, and I want to identify it for you all in the shelters and some of the communities we have gone to. Outside of the issues of grief and loss, because there have been a lot of deaths throughout the islands, we have identified, even in Point Michel, for example, there was one house where there was about 9 people. And those 9 persons, when they pointed out where the house was, I said, where is the house? There's no house. It's just the idea that the house existed. And the house would have been washed down with everybody in it. So far, out of the 9 persons, I think they've recovered 4. That community is still in shock. We spoke to one guy, and it touched me. Because, you know, you think that people would have lost children and stuff. The only companion that he had would have been his goats. And there was one goat in particular he spoke about that would greet him with a sense of love when he came home. That goat is no more. He pointed to us when we walked through the village where that goat was. And there is a man without any sense of somebody there to love him or something there to love him. And there are lots of people who have lost loved ones who are experiencing that. Children, brothers, sisters, where they would have lost. I think people they're still searching for bodies. They are identified at least 30 plus people still missing across the island. And that may be a number that can increase from what we're hearing. We look at the idea that people are now contemplating migrating. While that might be so, we are very concerned about the impact on families. When people migrate, usually it's the wife leaving with the children for a betterment. But then the husband stays here. What happens in terms of that separation? What is going on with him? Because he is now experiencing a second trauma. The loss of his house, his property, and now the loss of his family. And those are real issues that we need to not only treat with at a one-time kind of thing, but these are ongoing discussions and ongoing therapy that needs to be addressed. We are also looking at the loss of property. And I know Dr. Benjamin spoke about it. But when we talk about property loss, that ring that he mentioned, there are lots of heirlooms and other things that people would have lost in there that you could never recover. Pictures, albums that you would never see again. And then, of course, we have to look at how long did it take me to construct that property? 30 years, and then the hopelessness that I don't have 30 years to rebuild that. I don't have a job. So those are the things that we have to be mindful that if we don't start that helping process and we don't deal with the mental health issue, the psychological first aid that we talk about to cauterize the mental bleeding that would be happening right now, then we are in trouble. Fortunately, we are able to arrest some of those things. Unfortunately, we need more hands on deck. The displacement issue, you know, I know I certainly mentioned it to the PM in that I know we want to go back to a sense of normalcy and get back to schools and have them reopen and stuff. We must be mindful, however, that the shelters are partly where those people are placed. The schools are the shelters. The minute you remove them, we need to have somewhere to put them because they have already lost a house. So if you are going to displace them a second time, you are already going to affect their mental psyche severely. So we are asking in terms of how we try to reinstill normalcy, that there be some sense of delicacy and sensitivity to it. Again, identifying negative and positive coping mechanisms. A lot of times right now in the shelters, there are lots of negative coping. It's what people are resorting to the use of alcohol, people are resorting to the use of drugs and overuse, not just a one-time use. Because that's what, some of them looted, and that's what they do. They sit down all the night. There's no power, there's nothing to do when the night comes. That's what they're going to do. We need to urge people to be very careful. Not only we have the issue of the use of alcohol or drugs, but these people are in shelters. We have to look at the safety issue in the shelters as well. Some of those shelters are not safe for women and children because the individual who might be consuming the alcohol can then see those women and children as victims. And this is a second time again. They are already victims of Maria. So we are urging the people out there, be responsible in your action. We are all hurting in this. So you don't want to put women, children, somebody's wife, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister through that because they are in a place of vulnerability. We're also looking at how do we rebuild the strength of the individual? Well, you know what? You all have years of resiliency. You all are probably one of the few islands that would have experienced so many different hurricanes and lived through it and survived and rebuilt. So you all have a level of resilience. Tap into that resilience. Tap into that strength. Yes, at times it feels like I'm fed up. I want to leave here because I can't do it every 2 years. I can't every 2 years be expecting to lose my house or to lose my roof. Well, here's what. There are some people who did not lose their roof. There are some people who did not get significant damage. You know why? Because they listen. Some people out there, they admitted that they're stubborn. People tell them leave the houses and they refuse to because instead of using the experience positively, you use it to say, nothing would happen. And then it happened. Use that experience as wisdom. Use it to help rebuild Dominica. So use the proper type of roof. Use the proper type of storm windows. You know what you need to do. And then do it. Let's not try the shortcuts because the shortcuts would get us nowhere. Relationships. I want to say that because during this time, relationships take a hit. Outside of just people leaving, there's a struggle in terms of how do we cope? How do we cope through the financial issues? Because a lot of us now are unemployed. There's no way to feed our family. And then we have the challenge in terms of at the shelters and at the different community centers, how do we distribute the relief effort, the physical relief effort, the food stuff, the supplies? There's a sense that it is not done equitably. So some people may get there's a sense that they don't deserve. They have less people in their homes. Some people have over 20-something people in their homes. And they have made their homes into shelters and they don't get the relief. And they're angry because they're saying while we want to support the rebuilding initiative, the government is not treating us fairly. And I don't believe this is the government not treating. I think, therefore, the system of distribution needs to be revisited. And there must be some level of clarity. The people on the ground need to understand everybody out there is hurting and everybody out there would have a need. Let us try to make sure that all Dominicans are fed. It's not about an issue where I can't, if I had the money and there were some places open, I would have bought it. Some people have the money, but there's no grocery open. There are few groceries on the islands right now open. We came up here and fortunately we brought stuff. But even that, we find it's finishing because there's nowhere to purchase stuff. So let us be fair and let us also be sensitive. I really want to say this. When you go to do those relief efforts, don't drive around with your vehicle and say and cry out, come get your relief. People are already dehumanized. Let us not take away their dignity. Let's preserve whatever shred of dignity they have. Treat them as people, as persons. And I'm saying that because, you know what, some of the people who are doing it are not the visitors per se, but are some Dominicans doing it to Dominicans. Let us please respect your brothers' hurt and treat them fairly. And with that, there's so much I can say because there's a lot of things that we have been doing as we hit the ground. We intend to go back to a lot of these communities. We want to go to Grand Bay. Right now, as I'm speaking, my team is probably at Michel and, Michel. So, I'm being corrected by Dr. Benjamin. I'll get it, and we also have to go back to some of the other areas. But I want to say in closing to Dominica, you all are actually rising. It might seem slowly, it might be insignificant, but each step gets you away from that place that you once were. So continue in that direction, continue the rebuilding, and to the neighbors out there, the Trinidadians, the Antiguans, the Barbadians, and all the other Caribbean islands. If you want to help, find a way to get in here and get the things done, find a way to provide the support, and we will rebuild Dominica one block at a time. Thank you very much.